And welcome back to another episode. In this video, I want to go over how the left-wing politics of The Last Jedi has really, I think, perhaps poisoned the franchise, but more specifically, why it winds up creating lousy characters and why the outcomes are often, of what is produced is often the exact opposite of the intent. Now, the original classic trilogy used the works of Joseph Campbell as sort of a basis to have like the classic hero's journey, and this led to some of the greatest science fiction fantasy films that have ever been created and remain popular to this day. Now, The Last Jedi, I believe now under the leadership of Kathleen Kennedy, has sort of almost forgotten that and instead injected a large dose of postmodern feminism. And in their mad desire to check boxes and to create diverse characters, they wind up doing the exact opposite. Rather than creating vibrant, believable, diverse characters, they wind up just creating stereotypes or characters that are completely bland. Now, one of the biggest examples of this is the character of Rey herself. It's often said that she is a Mary Sue, and I believe that to be true. For those of you who don't know what a Mary Sue is, essentially it is an idealized character who is seemingly kind of good at everything even the first time they try it. There is typically no struggle with the Mary Sue, or a Gary Stu if it happens to be a guy. I believe it actually comes from fan fiction, where fans would often kind of write themselves into their sort of most beloved stories and be these very much powered up characters. So in the case of Rey, I should also say too that this really disappoints me because I think the actress who plays Rey, Daisy Ridley, I think she has a lot of charisma and a lot of potential. I would just wish they would give her a character that's worthy of her with an actual character arc. Now, I'll just kind of compare now Rey, the Mary Sue, to the original character of Luke Skywalker from the original trilogy. Now, when we get the initial impression, Luke is actually a bit of a whiny teenager, and he's also somewhat reckless, in that he takes off, for example, to go and check out the Sand People when maybe he probably shouldn't do that. Rey, on the other hand, is selfless from the start, and right in the beginning of The Force Awakens, she helps this droid for no apparent reason. It's really nice, but I mean, that's not a character. There's no room for growth there. Now, in their first fight, Luke gets his ass kicked by the Tusken Raiders, and later he gets his ass kicked in the bar and has to be saved by Obi-Wan Kenobi. Compared that to Rey, who the first time we see her in a fight, she kicks ass with her quarterstaff like she's something out of a Robin Hood movie, and also John Boyega's Finn character is constantly trying to help her, and she's, again, true to this postmodern feminism stuff. It's like, oh, I don't need your help, I'm a strong woman, blah, 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 blah. That's fine. Well, it's not fine, because at some point, if you in order to get attracted to a character, there has to be some struggle. And we never really say Rey struggle with anything. If she needs to have a skill or needs to get something done, she is good at it right away. The first time using the Force power. So, the first time we really see Luke use the Force is actually in The Empire Strikes Back, in the second film, and we see him, pull the lightsaber from probably a few feet away in order to deal with the Wampus monster. But in Force Awakens, the first time we see Rey use the Force power, or at least like this, she's able to retrieve Luke's lightsaber from a great distance, and also when Kylo Ren, who should be much more powerful in the Force, was actually trying to get it. And I should mention too that Rey, right off the bat, is able to use the sort of the Force voice that Obi-Wan Kenobi used in the original movie, apparently without any training or even anyone showing her that it was possible. And again, she's just kind of good at everything right away. Okay, and the first time using a lightsaber, the first time we see Luke using a lightsaber, he's actually being trained by Obi-Wan, and he's having a tough time because the little floating droid is zapping him. Although eventually he does make a little bit of progress, but clearly he's a beginner. In the case of Rey, she defeats Kylo Ren right off the bat. And I think a quarterstaff and a lightsaber are very different weapons. I know people might say Kylo Ren was seriously injured, but even then, it's just stupid. Perhaps they should have made the final fight a lot more awkward, but it still just doesn't make any sense. Right away, like, she just can do everything well. And ultimately, that's why Rey is just not a compelling character, despite the fact that I think Daisy Ridley does a good job, but she's not given anything to do. Rey doesn't struggle with anything, and without struggle, there's no drama, and we get no character arc. Again, Luke has quite the character arc from sort of a restless, whiny teenager to ultimately being a hero who's destroying the Death Star. Rey is just kind of good at everything, and she's in a tough spot when she's living by herself on that desert planet, but there's no character arc, especially when compared to Luke. That's why I don't think most people feel really any great attachment to Rey. The worst example, though, in the new movie is with the characters of Finn and Rose. Now, I liked the Finn character in the first movie. I thought he had potential, because perhaps he's going to play the role of the everyman, someone who doesn't have any special powers but still tries to do the right thing. And there's also the mystery that they set up in the first one of how he kind of broke his Imperial conditioning to not be a stormtrooper. So that was potentially interesting. But in this movie, we see Finn. He's kind of mutters about wanting to find Rey, and then he comes across Rose, who just kind of goes along for the ride. But neither of them, they basically do nothing in the entire movie. And if you remember, they go to Canto Bight, they save some animals, they kind of rage against the 1% of the people who are gambling there, but ultimately their whole story meant nothing. It gave them nothing to do. And that's why, again, I say when you're kind of pushing the progressive feminist thing, it's like you're just checking boxes. You're like, okay, we need a black man here, we'd like to get an Asian here, but then you don't give them, they don't create real characters, and so they wind up coming across as being very, very bland. And it almost reminds me sometimes when sometimes a Republican who will be very much against gay rights will suddenly be revealed to be gay. In this case, people who are both stridently for feminism or for equal rights wind up creating characters that wind up being the exact opposite of what they actually intended to do. I mean, they're not creating people, they're just checking boxes. And they also gave Rose like the worst line in the entire movie and the worst actions. At the very end, or close to the end, when they're having the big battle on the salt planet, it looks like Finn is actually going to do something consequential to the plot, in that he's going to sacrifice his life to stop them from shooting the big giant laser cannon at the rebel base. But then, out of nowhere, and for seemingly no reason, Rose steers her ship into Finn's ship, potentially killing them both, and they both crash near. Of course they survive, and then Rose says, that's how we're going to win. Not fighting what we hate, but saving what we love. It makes absolutely no sense. While she's saying that stupid line, that laser should be firing, killing all of her friends. Like, how does that get in there? It's just unbelievable. And again, it robs the Finn character of potentially being something of consequence and having a noble death. But because they're not interested in having characters, and they're only interested in checking boxes, this is the kind of garbage you get. And unfortunately, this is why I think the actress is getting so much blowback, and it often is racist, because she's only there to check a box. And I put that at the feet of the director, and Rian Johnson, who also wrote it, and Kathleen Kennedy. If you're going to put characters in, make characters. Don't just check boxes. And it really comes to me, when you compare these characters to Lando Calrissian. When Billy D. Williams was originally offered the role by George Lucas, he originally didn't want to play it, because he actually didn't want to play a check-the-box character. But George Lucas assured him that no, anybody could play Lando, and that he was actually multi-dimensional and was sort of like a riverboat gambler, is how I think he was originally sold to Billy D. Williams. And in Empire, that's what you get. Like, he's not perfect right off the bat. I mean, initially he portrays Han Solo and the gang. Now, and plus he has his own reasons for doing it. He's essentially managing Cloud City. He's got a lot of responsibility. The Empire comes in. He's got to try and weigh his responsibilities to the citizens of Cloud City versus his friendship with Han. And initially, maybe he makes a bad choice, although he does redeem himself and tries to help people at the end. Again, that's a real character, and that's why Lando Calrissian is a great character, and Finn and Rose at this point stink. And the worst offender is, and I'm going to have to make another video about this, is the character of Vice-Admiral Haldo, played by Laura Dern. And really, I think she's really indicative of a much broader point of how our art is reflecting our culture, that you could even have a character like this. It's so obvious that this one general who was not like any typical general, or like any general you would ever have. And in the real world, if you're really fighting a war, you're gonna have characters like, you know, Patton or Dwight Eisenhower or these kind of guys. You're never going to have a character who looks like he just stepped out of a gender studies program at a university as your leader. It is completely unbelievable. But I'm going to have more to say about Haldo in another video to make a much broader point about the culture, I think. The bottom line, though, is that in The Last Jedi, by focusing on leftist progressive ideology rather than character and storytelling, The Last Jedi utterly fails to create believable, diverse, and three-dimensional characters. And I think this is also why, at least partially, why the toys just do not sell the way the old toys did. These characters do not connect on any level because they're such poorly written, one-dimensional characters that are programmed in to fit, again, an ideology rather than having the heroic character arc of the hero's journey, a la Joseph Campbell. And the strength of those original trilogies is so strong. I mean, it dragged the prequels to make money. These ones will make money. But in the long term, they're going to be getting a lot of blowback because they're just not very good movies. But what do you think? Do you agree with me? There are many other examples of where the leftist ideology, I think, winds up kind of ruining the movie. So I'd be very interested in what you think. And stay tuned for my next video, because I think it's going to make a much broader point about the culture, particularly with The Last Jedi and also Rogue One. But that's it for now, so until next time.